People are always asking me questions about order of pedals. Like, where do I place my overdrive pedal in my chain? Where do I put this? Where do I put that? I had a customer recently that bought a Greedtone pedal back in early 2000s, contacted me around 2007, said he had a problem with his pedal, and could he send it back? And I said yes. And then about a month ago, he sent me a message again saying, hey, yeah, 2007 I contacted you and said I was sending that pedal back and I haven't sent it back, and will you still fix it for me? And I said sure. So he sent it to me and I checked it out and there was nothing wrong with it. And so I asked him, is this the first thing you're putting in your pedal chain and then you're putting a bunch of other pedals after it? And he said, yeah, that's exactly what I was doing. And I said, yeah, you can't do that, because my Greedtone, like the overdrive and the classic and the treble maker and probably the booster too, those all have so much juice that if you put them in the front of your pedal chain, it will literally just tear up everything else, because all those other things are kind of like toys. So they're not really ready to handle that. At the same time, certain pedals don't work later in your chain. Like fuzz pedals, for instance, are always best first, because the way those are made with transistors and stuff, they really need to be kind of the first thing in line. And if you start slamming things into the front of a fuzz pedal, they get real upset, really temperamental. My pedals have so much volume gain. When they are at the end of your chain, they can drive your amp really nice, where if you drive them into something else, they don't work so well. Which kind of brings me to one of my first topics is, recently I was playing around with some tone circuits, and I was going to build a pedal just so I had, some tone options to put in some pedals, because I'd been building the fuzz, and I was wondering, should I put a tone circuit in? I'm not sure what I should do, and I didn't want to do the typical thing, which was put in a lot of different tone circuits and keep ripping them out until I found the one I wanted. And I thought, well, maybe I just build a couple pedals so that I can try them out and see which one works with this fuzz. And really the thing with the fuzz, I just felt like it had too much high end. And I was using my bridge pickup, and I thought maybe it has a little bit too much high end. And so I built this pedal called the Boost pedal. And actually I got one right here. It's going to be backwards because I'm doing the, flip around one. But when I turn it around, you'll see it. And I just built a volume and a tone knob. And I played it in a lot of spots, and I put it early in my chain because I figured, I'll just EQ, and it didn't really seem to work that well. And so then I put it later in the chain, and I decided to put it right at the end. And then it became this amazing thing where I had this ability to EQ my whole pedal chain with one pedal. And I could just kick on this boost pedal, match the volume to where I wanted, or actually have a boost if I wanted. And then, shape the EQ real quickly with it. And so I'm going to go over here to some of the pedals, and we can check out some of this stuff. Let me flip this camera around. So the boost pedal I was talking about was like one of these. And if you notice, it's pretty straightforward. It just has tone and volume. And this is the end of my chain. So it starts way over here with this pedal and just kind of goes down the line. And one thing I noticed was, let me grab a guitar. Is if I put on like a fuzz, I could easily take this, and I've rolled some of the highs off with it. I can real quickly shape that sound, and especially when you start adding multiple pedals, you can really, see how I can quickly take a lot of high end off or do whatever I want. So I kind of am in love with this new concept of putting this boost EQ pedal at the end of my chain, because I feel like it really changes the whole ball game. And so recently I built a couple different ones. I built that one that has the EQ in it, and then I had these little tiny ones, and I decided to build a couple pedals that had just volume. so volume boost pedal, and that's what this little guy is here that looks like the butter stick, which is kind of fun because if you got, like, I have that fuzz on right now, and if I basically get just a little boost out of it. So I tend to put my boosts at the end. I always put my fuzzes up front, and because the fuzzes don't like to be at the end. And so those are kind of the new boost pedals. And this pedal right here, I'm actually, in the next day or so, I'm going to develop this into something very similar to this pedal down here, but I'm going to put a different tone circuit in it so that you know, I can check it out and see if, you know, maybe there's a couple different ideas there. And it's really nice because if you remember, like, a lot of guitar amps have the presence knob on them, and the presence knob is basically a tone control for your power amp. And so that's what these kind of work as, and they work really good because they shape the whole tone. When I put them early in the circuit, it just didn't seem to matter as much because it would go into a distortion and then it would get all kind of eaten up. But the boost with the tone control right at the end was really, you know, a powerful concept. So that for me has become my new best friend. I've sent it out to a few people, and everyone is kind of freaking out over it. They said it was a game changer. It was like the biggest thing, especially when you have multiple pedals and you start getting, your tone gets way out of control. You click on this thing and you can just shape it right back in, you know. Like if you get a bunch of them. See, you can take the high end right back off of it. So that is my new favorite pedal. I actually have a couple of those for sale, and a couple of these little boosts that don't do a lot, but actually just boost your tone. And I've been building a bunch of these under what I call the Bionic Ear, which is who does all the R&D for Greed Tone, and that's the Bionic Ear symbol. And so they're all one-offs. They all look different. I don't sell them for the same price as Greed Tones. So they're a lot more affordable, and it's something that, you know, if you're sitting at home bored, you might be interested in. Another thing that, you know, I have a couple of these fuzzes for sale. These two right here are for sale. And I've been kind of thinking about building these two fuzzes into one box. So you could basically, you know, be playing along and then click on one fuzz. And then you could switch the other one if you wanted. Or have both. So I think I'm going to take this box right here this week, the next couple days, this very crazy looking one, and I'm going to build, I think, 2 of those fuzzes into it and have it sideways like this with 2 stomps. So if anyone's interested in something like that, they can always hit me up for that. I'm basically just using all this time to build pedals for Greed Tone through the Bionic Ear, and you know, just do all my R&D, and I'm selling off stuff at prices just to keep the R&D going. Let's see here. What else did I want to talk about? Oh, the last thing I wanted to talk about was this thing. Let me put this guitar down. This guy right here, I made this, and it's funny because it doesn't even need the knob. The knob was an idea that didn't pan out. So I think in the future ones, if people were interested in this, I might make more of them. But this is a speaker, and I might just put it in the middle of this box. And this is one of those little it's a little amp that I can either just use it as is, or I can run this into a cabinet and this becomes your guitar head. And I've noticed that using it on my bench has been super valuable, because I'll be testing a pedal. I don't want to go over to the guitar amp and plug stuff in. Instead, I just plug this in on my bench and I can hear stuff. So it's kind of funny because by itself, it's very much sounds like a fuzz pedal. And you can control it by your volume on your guitar, how much what it sounds like. Let's see here. So by itself it's not super loud, but in a second I'm going to plug it into this 412 here, and you'll see like it gets much louder. Let's just do that because it's kind of fun by itself, but it's not that loud. But if I plug it in this 412, give me just a second. Now we're here in the 412. Powered off of that little guy. Let's get it back in view. So that little guy is powering this whole speaker cab. So I don't know if anyone's interested in having a little amp like that you could run a cab with, or like I said, just unplug it and it plays through that little speaker. I'm gonna probably build 2 more of them this week. One in this purple black box and one in this black green box. So I personally love that thing. Like I said, I use it on my bench. Last night when I was playing it here, I kind of felt like going through the 412. Maybe it was too loud. But through here, it's like super quiet. So I can just play it and not bugging anyone. If I had kids, I wouldn't be waking them up. I mean, I got kids, but they're just not here. So if anyone has questions about any pedals or any of this kind of stuff, you can always ask me. I'm basically just in full design mode, and am going to stay in design mode through, you know, this whole quarantine process. Because, I mean, what else are you going to do? Go crazy and watch too much Netflix? So, anyways, you guys can hit me up with questions in the comments. And if you're interested in any of these pedals or a Meager, I call it the Meager amp, hit me up. Bye.